Welcome back to the Central Indiana's Colt. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report's Colts fans for a special edition of the Colts Report with Sam Frick, Will Retherford, and Michelle Garmon. Their preview of the Colts game against the Atlanta Falcons in Berlin on Sunday morning at 9:30. Early rise to watch some NFL. Gotta love that. Do not skip church, anybody. Especially after a loss to the Steelers, a pretty big game, a pretty good opponent that, as Wilt and I talked about on his Strictly Biased podcast this week, that the Falcons are one of the biggest yo-yo teams in the NFL. You never know what you're going to get. That makes it a pretty interesting game and a big one.
Especially when you got the element of going overseas, right? You got the early morning start there, and then as you mentioned, Atlanta, with all the weapons they have, they can throw the football as well. They got a pretty decent offense, I think. But I think at the end of the day, with the Colts match with the Falcons, big thing is can we play 4 quarters of Colts football and play to the level we have been up to this point. The game against Pittsburgh was rough the last time around with the turnovers. We can't have that this week against the Atlanta Falcons. We cannot put ourselves in tough spots in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. But again, as you mentioned, Greg, Atlanta's kind of one of those big yo-yo teams in the NFL, and we think there's quite a few of those this year. So we'll see what we can do this week against Atlanta, coming off an amazing trade deadline, picking up Sauce Gardner, which is going to be a big help long term. But right now, our focus should be shifting on what's going on in Berlin.
I think this is one of those games that the Colts can get back on track. The Falcons are just too inconsistent for me to really feel like they can be a legitimate threat to this Colts team. I think the writing could be on the wall for last week, what happened in Pittsburgh. One of those games where they have everything go right, you kind of have everything go wrong. I don't expect the Colts to turn the ball over 6 times this week. I think that there is a clear advantage really across the board in terms of offensive skill set. Defensively, the Falcons' numbers look pretty good, but when you kind of break down, they're really good until you get them in the red zone, and then they're really bad. So the Colts have had a really good scoring offense up to this point, whether it be field goals or touchdowns. I believe the stat I saw, the Falcons are giving up a 70% touchdown rate in the red zone. So if the Colts get down there, they're going to score.
But Bijan Robinson has to concern you.
He's been bottled up the past couple weeks. He's definitely an impact player. I think he's an incredible athlete. If the Colts are able to get some pressure on Penix, I think that you now have your cornerback that's going to be able to cover Drake London. To me, Kyle Pitts is probably the playmaker that I'm more concerned about because of the Colts' inability to defend tight ends. So I think that would be my target concern going into this game, would be what does a big athletic tight end do to this linebacking core?
I think, Michelle, my other concern would be when you make these trips to Europe, you just don't know what you're going to get. You don't know which team's going to show up. The underdog often wins these games, and then you come home and you never know how a team's going to respond from that. So it's kind of cool that they're playing a game at 9:30 in the morning in Berlin, but there are definitely pitfalls from that.
I think that when you travel to Europe, sometimes I think it depends on your team. I think if you have a more mature team, I think you're better off. Routine, travel, they know they can come back. If you have a bunch of young people or younger guys that are just excited, their first trip overseas and they want to see things, and you might worry about them a little bit being not totally focused on on the objective at hand. But I think the Colts, the way they approach games, especially offensively, I don't see them having necessarily much of a lull. I agree with you, Will. I think it's going to be a bounce back game. I don't think they'll have 6 turnovers again. Robinson is not a concern for me unless he breaks them and you have to put more people in the box to stop him. Then the Pitts becomes objective, and the fact that
Exactly what it is.
Penix is most accurate throwing a deep ball.
That's the exact concern.
To me, that would be it.
The numbers suggest the Colts. I mean, in NFL international games, historically, the favorites are 44-16, so that's a 73%
Whoa.
win rate. So the favorite has a clear advantage for whatever reason in these games. I, I think the Colts take care of business. I don't know if they cover. It might be within a touchdown, but I just think this offense, the Falcons are 23rd ranked defense in the league. The Colts have a really prominent run game. Atlanta has increased their pressures this year, kind of with 2 first-round draft picks on the defensive line. But I think the Colts got punched in the mouth last week with Watt, Highsmith, and Cam Hayward. I don't see that happening 2 times. I just think this is one of those games where these are professional players. The mistakes they made last week where they can improve, and I think you come out and you see that improvement for this team.
If they do get pressure on him, then all of a sudden that offensive line that has looked tremendous becomes a little bit of a concern.
And I want to just kind of piggyback on the Michael Penix reference with the Atlanta Falcons. We've seen what in the past, in college and the NFL, he has a lot of potential to be a deep ball threat. And we saw him in Indiana. We saw him at Washington in college. Michael Penix Jr. can be one of the great deep ball quarterbacks in the NFL. And so when you get to that variable into the mix here, can be a concern in a matchup like this with some of the skill sets they have in Atlanta. Like both you said, I don't think we're going to be as sloppy in this game either. But I'm with Will. I don't think we quite cover. I still think the Colts are the better team. I think we win by 3 points, though. I think it's going to be closer. But in the end, I think this is going to be a bounce back game that we definitely need coming out of a great trade deadline. Get some energy back to the States, especially as we get Sauce Gardner transitioned into the Colts system.
And we will get to our predictions for the game here in a minute. First, I want to ask Will, what do you expect the role to be for Sauce Gardner this week? And we haven't talked to you yet about that transaction. I want to get your thoughts.
It's really difficult to assume a winner or a loser in a trade like this. Up to this point, this is going to take a couple years probably to determine who actually won the trade. I don't think it's bad to go get great players. I don't think it's bad to. Are you going to get a Sauce Gardner with your first round pick this year? Probably not. Are you going to get Sauce Gardner with your first round pick next year? Probably not. Historically, Chris Ballard has struggled a lot in the first round to begin with. This made all the sense in the world. Was it maybe a little steeper of a price than I would have potentially liked to see at the trade deadline? Perhaps. I think that giving up A.D. Mitchell was maybe a little bit of an overpay. However, I said after the Rams game, you were better off trading him. If you're benching him, a player of his talent, a player of his potential, you get rid of him because he's not going to have a role in your team anymore. As for Sunday, this is as simple of a game plan as Sauce Gardner is going to get in his NFL career. You're going to run with Drake London, and we're going to worry about playing cover 3 on the backside, but you're man up basically the entire game. I would assume that
be a full participant in the plan?
you don't send 2 first-round picks and he ain't playing the whole game. He's just that kind of corner. You go put him on Drake London and say, you are completely responsible for him this game. I think that is Sauce Gardner's. What, Michelle, what were you saying?
I was going to say, aren't you concerned, though? He's been, the last 2 years, he's one of the top 5 in PIs for the season. Game, if you put him one-on-one, Atlanta just runs Drake.
He's the best cover corner in the NFL, and it's not close.
But he's been penalized. He's also one of the most penalized,
Okay.
And that does make a difference.
It doesn't matter. His rating is better than anyone in the NFL. He is the best individual cover corner
Patrick
in the
Surtain
NFL.
of the Denver Broncos is.
It's not true.
Yes.
Last year, Sauce Gardner was the only corner who rated over 90 in PFF. He was the only one.
How come everybody's saying his production has dropped each year?
Because people are idiots. It's not true. His peers have voted him the best corner in the league. My eyes tell me he's the best corner in the league. And the numbers say he's the best corner in the league.
Okay, I just saw a highlight where George Pickens made him look silly.
I saw a highlight when Deion Sanders once looked silly.
I'm just saying for a first game, I was asking Will, do those PIs concern you? Because I know you want one-on-one. Does that concern you a little bit?
I mean, I guess you could probably make an argument there. I
think
know.
he's going to be great.
What's I guess what's the PI percentage in zone defense versus man defense? I don't I think that's just getting way too particular probably for this game.
Yeah.
He's going to play man up. He's a cover corner. You've got Drake London, who is somebody that Sauce Gardner has not played much against in his career. They've been in separate conferences. There's not been a ton of overlap there. I just see this as a super simple game plan for him, super elementary. And then on the backside, the other side with Kenny Moore and Jalen Jones, you're probably going to see a little bit more diversity in terms of play calling because you can divide the field in half. I have no issue with what Anarumo has done so far. I think he's been really good at creating personalized game plans tailored week to week. I see this week he's been given the golden goose. He has been given a playmaker of the caliber of Sauce Gardner. I would expect that you see Drake London's targets go down this week as compared to weeks past. I think that is the type of defender Sauce Gardner is. He is not going to get a ton of opportunities to make the play on the ball. I think he's very similar to a Darrelle Revis in his prime, where you just kind of close off the other half of the field. So if there's a PI, oh well, you take the PI and you live with it. If it was Xavier Howard, we would be complaining about the PI call anyway. He had no business being on him. So live with Sauce Gardner and just hope for the best.
It is crazy we've gone from Xavier Howard to Sauce Gardner, though.
I think it's going to be a really great trade for the Colts as long as as long as it doesn't financially strap them because of that contract that they inherited with Quentin Nelson and Braden Smith and those contracts coming up this year and next year. And they're going to, if they continue to do well, they're going to demand high salaries too. So that's the only concern. But I think the great thing is when you get Ward back, then what that does is that may allow you to be creative, and Kenny Moore gets to take a great tight end in coverage and man coverage.
Yeah, the Gardner Ward Moore combination is going to be a great one.
Oh, it's gonna be exciting to see what the match is gonna look like on Sunday. I think Will's right about a little bit of Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce is gonna come in with a much more simple game plan, very similar to how the Green Bay Packers did with Parson when he came in from Dallas for that first game. He kind of was a simple transition, nothing too complex. Get him into the system with a simple game plan and go from there. I think my biggest question to me is can our Colts pass rush be able to put any pressure on Michael Penix Jr.? I think that would be a concern I have on paper when it comes to defense. I think Sauce Gardner, you'll take your good and you'll take some of the struggles for that first game, but I think Sauce Gardner will be fine. I'm not too worried about that transition for him. But can we limit the deep ball with Penix Jr. and Kyle Pitts? I think that's where I have maybe the most concern on paper. But I love our defensive backfield on paper for the Colts, 100%.
My biggest concern is by far Bijan Robinson. I believe that there's a possibility this game ends with him having over 200 yards of offense. His game is just perfectly fit to kill this Colts front seven. It definitely concerns me. All right, guys, let's make our predictions, and I'm going to start off, and I think this is going to be an incredibly difficult game. I hope I'm wrong. I think the final score is going to be Colts 29, Falcons 26. Michelle?
All right. You know me, I'm a little bit of the coward. I don't like to say numbers, but I think the Colts are going to win by a touchdown to 10 points.
Howard?
I think the Colts neutralize Bijan by getting up early. It's 14-0 in the Colts' first two possessions. Forces the Falcons to get throw happy. I expect the Colts to win this game 27-17.
I said the Colts would win by 3, so I am going to go Colts 27, Atlanta 24.
Sam, you and I seem to be equally pessimistic every week. Who have the Colts in the toughest battle, it seems, every week.
That game in Germany, those international games, there's a lot of mixed bag with those games, and it's going to throw the records aside because it's just such a different atmosphere. It's a neutral site, very different game compared to what we see in normal weeks. So that's going to play a factor. And then Atlanta has enough talent on the offense to cause some trouble there. And I think the deep ball with the Atlanta Falcons is more of a concern for me than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that deep ball, only if they complete a little bit to where you have to kind of be concerned about it. That opens it up for Bijan Robinson.
Sam, Will, Michelle, thank you so much for your time and always appreciate it. Go Colts.
Go Colts.
Thanks so much to Sam, Will, and Michelle for joining the Colts Report, and to you for listening. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with a Colts fan in your life and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports. How often, Susie?
Every single day.
Every single day. Not as good as the last one, but still.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give you any.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love you, Susie.